Ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Always up for exploring new perspectives.
Excellent. Well, today we're going to be diving into the world of poetry.
Poetry, always a fascinating realm, full of layers.
Yeah, and specifically, we're going to be looking at the work of Manuel del Valle y Colón.
Interesting choice, and timely, too. I believe his latest collection, Omnibus Poetry XXIII 2025, just came out this past March.
That's right, fresh off the press. And even just glancing at this collection, you can tell it's going to be a thought-provoking journey. The dedication alone sort of sets the stage.
Oh, absolutely. It reads, "To all those who struggle daily to make sense of a world which is less than supportive, sometimes outright hostile, and yet filled with love, beauty, and fulfillment." Really speaks to the complexities of the human experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, it feels like Del Valle y Colón is grappling with some pretty big questions, like how do we find meaning and joy in a world that can be so challenging? For anyone listening, that kind of sets the tone, right? This isn't going to be just lighthearted verse.
Not at all. And looking at the range of themes he tackles, it becomes even clearer. We're talking about the mystery of language itself, the cyclical nature of life, the power of art, music, and spirituality, identity, connection, the natural world, the physical body, conflict, fate. I mean, really, the list goes on.
It's a lot to unpack. And I have a feeling it's going to get even more interesting when we start to factor in Del Valle Colón's own life story. I mean, this guy's lived a pretty incredible life, full of diverse experiences.
Oh, without a doubt. Born in East Harlem in 1948, so his roots are deep in New York City. But his parents were originally from Puerto Rico, so there's that connection to another culture, another history right there. And he grew up in housing projects, the Carver houses, Douglas projects, attended public school, so
Yeah.
a real sense of the urban environment shaping his early years.
And then academically, his path takes some really interesting turns. I mean, Brooklyn Technical High School, that's a pretty intense academic environment.
Yeah, college prep all the way. But even then, it seems his engagement went beyond just academics. His involvement in the Aspire Club, for example. He wasn't just a member, he was the Issues and Actions chairman for the whole Aspire Club's federation.
Wow, so already stepping into leadership roles.
Exactly. And rubbing shoulders with some future power players, too. Guys like Wilfredo Caraballo and Fernando Ferrer. But what I find really fascinating is the fact that he received training from some real giants in community organizing and social change. Antonio Pantoja, Yolanda Sanchez, Isaura Santiago. I mean, talk about an impressive mentorship. What does that say to you about the kind of foundation he was building?
I mean, to me, it suggests someone who was already deeply engaged with issues of social justice, community empowerment,
Uh-huh.
not just focus on individual success, but on making a difference in the world around him.
Absolutely. And that commitment seems to carry through his whole life, really. So after high school, he spends a postgraduate year at Yale, which is no small feat, and then he heads to Wesleyan University.
So we're talking top-tier institutions here.
Yeah, and he's really exploring different avenues. Spends a semester back in New York City doing research on identity through the Edwin Gould Foundation, gets a HEF grant for that. And then he goes abroad, studies in Madrid, Spain, and also at the University of Puerto Rico. You really get the sense of someone actively seeking out different perspectives, different ways of understanding the world.
And that ties back to the themes we were talking about earlier, right? Identity, connection, the search for meaning. It seems like those threads were already emerging pretty early on.
It does, doesn't it? Then he transfers to Princeton, and that's where things really start to take off in terms of his academic and social impact.
I was going to say Princeton seems like a pretty pivotal chapter.
Absolutely. So he majors in history, Latin American studies, and Afro-American studies. But he's not just hitting the books. He's actively shaping the campus environment. He founds the Latino organization at Princeton, the first of its kind in the Ivy League, actively recruits Latino and Latina students, and even establishes a seminar focusing specifically on Puerto Rican history and politics. I mean, talk about a go-getter.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that really struck me. His senior thesis, which focused on Puerto Rican students in public education, wasn't just some dry academic exercise. It was so impactful that it ended up being included in a memorandum for Senator Jacob Javits and was later used in the landmark Aspira v. Board of Education case. I mean, that's real-world impact right there.
And that brings up a really important point about Del Valle Colón. His work, his scholarship, it's not just theoretical. It's deeply rooted in a desire to address real-world injustices, to effect change. And that's something we see again and again throughout his career.
You're absolutely right. And after Princeton, he continues that trajectory. He teaches at Phillips Andover Academy, counsels in the A Better Chance program, so that commitment to education as a pathway to opportunity is clearly strong. But then he goes on to Yale Law School, on a John Hay Whitney Fellowship, no less, with classmates like Clarence Thomas and Lonnie Guinier.
Yeah, now we're talking about elite legal circles. But even at Yale Law, he finds time to teach undergraduate courses on Puerto Rican history and politics, and even founds Despierta Boricua, the student organization. I mean, the guy is just a dynamo.
Talk about a full plate. And I love that even some of his former students went on to have really notable careers themselves. It speaks to his impact as an educator, as a mentor.
It does, doesn't it? And then, after law school, he joins the Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund, where he contributes to the Esper v. Board of Education case that we mentioned earlier, as well as working on the Pabon v. Levine case, which ensured that Spanish-speaking claimants would receive bilingual notices. So again, real-world impact, using the law to fight for equity and fairness.
100%. And his legal credentials, I mean, they're extensive. He's admitted to the bar in New York, New Jersey, D.C., Pennsylvania, even the U.S. Supreme Court, not to mention various circuit and district courts. Then he spends a significant chunk of his career with the U.S. Department of Labor, prosecuting violations of federal labor law. But even then, that connection to academia stays strong. He holds adjunct professorships and visiting lectureships at Fordham, Princeton, Yale College, New York Law School.
It's remarkable, isn't it? The guy is just constantly learning, teaching, engaging with ideas. And on top of all that, he gets a Rockefeller Foundation Fellowship, which takes him to the London School of Economics, where he dives into the incredibly complex world of Puerto Rican jurisprudence before the U.S. Supreme Court. Talk about a niche area of research.
And then he graduates from the Minority Arbitrator Program, so clearly skilled in conflict resolution. And then there's the Ford Foundation Fellowship, where he investigates national origin discrimination against Hispanics, which results in a significant monograph, and the Harvard Journal of Hispanic Policy article. I mean, this is someone who's really deeply immersed in issues of civil rights, systemic inequalities.
Absolutely. And before he takes on what I think is one of the most significant roles of his career, he spent some time as a partner in a law firm, so he's got that practical legal experience as well.
Right, so he's not just an academic, he's a practitioner, too.
Exactly. And then in 1991, he becomes the chief administrative law judge of the New York State Division of Human Rights, the first Puerto Rican to hold that position. And it's in this role that he really gets to put his lifelong commitment to equity and justice into action, prioritizing cases involving racial and sexual harassment, as well as AIDS-related discrimination. And you know what? Even while handling all of that, he continues teaching at Fordham Law School and serves on the Committee of Character for New Jersey. I mean, where does he find the time?
It's unbelievable, isn't it? And currently, he's the vice president and associate general counsel at Healthcare Management Alternatives, Inc., and Managed Healthcare Systems of New York.
So you put all of that together, growing up in challenging circumstances, excelling academically, becoming a lawyer and advocate, deeply involved in education and civil rights. It's almost impossible to imagine that those experiences wouldn't have a profound impact on his poetry.
I was going to say, this isn't just someone writing from an ivory tower. This is a life fully lived with all its complexities, its struggles, its triumphs. And you have to believe that all of that is going to seep into his work, into his language, into his perspective.
Absolutely. So for you, the listener, as we dive into these poems, remember that you're not just encountering words on a page. You're encountering a voice that's been shaped by a truly remarkable journey.
Okay, so our mission today is to explore some of the key themes and really powerful observations that emerge from Manuel del Valle Colón's Omnibus poetry, XXIII 2025. We want to give you a glimpse into his unique worldview and the way he uses language to wrestle with some pretty big ideas.
Sounds like a plan. Where should we start?
Well, why don't we begin with the title poem itself, Where Do Words Reside? It feels like an appropriate place to jump in, given that we're dealing with poetry, with language. What strikes you about that opening, that question?
Well, right away, it makes you think about the nature of language itself. I mean, where do words come from? Are they just tools for communication, or are they something deeper, something more connected to our being? And the poem itself sort of grapples with that question. It asks, where do words reside? In your heart, in your soul, in your sense of who you are, beyond the pink pale of a sunrise or a sunset? So it's not just about physical expression, it's about something more internal, more connected to our emotions, our sense of self. And then there's that line about an unsettled mind of a traveling scholar. It makes me think about Del Valle Colón's own journey, his constant exploration, his search for understanding.
And that search, that unsettled mind, it sort of echoes the feeling of the dedication, doesn't it? The sense of grappling with the world, trying to make sense of it all.
Absolutely. And I think that tension, that struggle, it runs through a lot of his work.
Like in the poem, everyone is enclosed by a circle. It's such a simple image, but it feels so loaded with meaning.
Yeah, and he kind of creates this equation for the human experience, equal to the diameter of their suffering and joy, divided by the insight of the moment and the height of their personal horizons. So it's suggesting that our lives are defined by these boundaries, these limits that are shaped by both our joys and our sorrows, our understanding and our aspirations. And then there's the line about dreams being mental earthquakes. It's such a powerful image, right? It makes you think about how our subconscious is constantly at work processing our experiences, preparing us for what's to come.
I love that image. It really captures the feeling of inner turmoil, of constant change. And then in contrast to that more universal philosophical poem, we have, he was bathed in the colors of the moon. She was bathed in the colors of the sun. This one feels so much more intimate, like a snapshot of a specific moment.
Absolutely. You can practically picture this scene. Two people by the riverbank appreciating the beauty of nature, the flowers, the bridge. But there's this underlying sense of melancholy because they know this is the last time they'll experience this together. The poem says, knowing this was the last time they would see the sun and the moon as one. It's about the fleeting nature of moments, the bittersweet beauty of connection and separation, and that imagery of the sun and moon, it adds this whole other layer of symbolism.
Oh, for sure. It makes you think about the different forces at play, the masculine and the feminine, the light and the dark. And it's all so beautifully intertwined with this feeling of loss, of something precious slipping away.
And speaking of precious things, I was really intrigued by the poem. They were like magic pills. It's so whimsical on the surface, but there's definitely something deeper going on there.
It's like a fairy tale almost.
Yeah. Yeah, with these brightly colored pills that ward off evil spells and spirits. But the real magic happens in her sleep, where the pills transport her to this idyllic landscape of green hills, where she's surrounded by loved ones on her birthday. And the poem explicitly says that these pills were born then, right out of her mind, fueled by her creativity and joy. So it's really about the power of imagination, of memory, to create a sense of comfort and connection, especially when the external world feels threatening or overwhelming.
I love that interpretation. It's like a reminder that we have this incredible inner world that we can draw on, even in the darkest of times.
Exactly. And that reminds me of another poem that really resonated with me, I Wish for Your Wish to Come True. It's such a simple sentiment, but so heartfelt.
Yeah, it's like a pure expression of love and empathy.
He wishes for all these wonderful things for this other person: truth, clarity, calm, excitement, joy, understanding. And then there's that beautiful line, and for you to be the light for someone, as someone was the light for you. It's about paying it forward, passing on the kindness and support that you've received. But then he acknowledges the limitations, saying, the wish of life is not mine to give, only to receive. So it's not about controlling someone else's journey, but about supporting them on their own path.
It's a beautiful balance, isn't it? Between wanting the best for someone and respecting their autonomy.
It is. And speaking of journeys, I was really struck by the poem. Sometimes I hear guitars playing in the background. There's this really interesting interplay between the mundane and the
I was
profound.
going to say, it feels like a very layered poem.
Totally. So he's describing these everyday activities, rehearsing lesson plans, interacting with his pet, but all the while, there are these guitars playing in the background. And it's not just background noise, it's like a soundtrack to his creative process. He's igniting the essence of a new idea, reinterpreting an ancient poem about rebels who experience a loss not of life, but of memory. And he's doing all of this while railing against the misfortune of politics, while harmonizing his new surroundings to nature herself. So it's like he's navigating all these different layers of experience at once: the personal, the political, the artistic, the natural. It's pretty heady stuff.
It makes you think about how our lives are constantly being shaped by these different forces, these different inputs. And sometimes it's in the quiet moments when we're engaged in seemingly mundane tasks that the most profound insights emerge.
That's a great point. And speaking of quiet moments, I was really moved by the poem. I took a hike in a Portuguese forest. It's such a stark contrast to the previous poem, which is so full of noise and activity.
This one is definitely a celebration of nature, of stillness.
He describes the forest as a sanctuary, a place of healing, especially in contrast to the city, which he says had raped all of my senses. And then he talks about wanting to be raped and be raped by the nature of trees, the sounds of silent butterflies, the joy of chirping rocks. It's such a powerful image, almost overwhelming in its intensity.
I was going to say that language is pretty strong.
Yeah, it's definitely not your typical nature poem. But I think he's trying to convey this sense of complete immersion, of surrendering to the power and beauty of the natural world. It's like he's finding a kind of renewal, a wholeness in that surrender.
It makes you think about how we often try to control our environment, to impose our will on the world around us. But sometimes the most healing experiences come when we let go, when we allow ourselves to be enveloped by something larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And that's a theme that I think runs through a lot of his work. This tension between control and surrender, between the individual and the collective, between the human and the natural.
Absolutely. And speaking of tension, the poem, I Know You Only in My Dreams, explores the often blurry lines between reality and fantasy, between connection and isolation.
It's a really interesting poem because it uses the series of contrasting lines to describe a relationship that seems to exist primarily in the realm of dreams. It's like they're connected through music and silence, smiles and sadness, shared meals and goodbyes. But then there's that last line. Or was that a cat that just passed by? It just throws everything into question, right?
It makes you wonder if these dream encounters were ever real at all.
It's a bit unsettling, isn't it? That feeling of uncertainty, of not knowing what's real.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the elusive nature of intimacy, the difficulty of truly knowing another person. I mean, how much of our connection with others is based on our own projections, our own desires? It's a question that I think we all grapple with at some point in our lives.
For sure. And then in contrast to that ambiguity, we have the poem When You Open Your Mind, You Open Your Heart. This one feels so much more direct, so affirming. Absolutely. It's about the interconnectedness of our inner states, how opening ourselves intellectually, emotionally, spiritually can lead to a deeper sense of connection with ourselves and with others. It talks about opening the mind, opening the heart, opening the hands to offer and receive love, opening the eyes to see the world with clarity and compassion. And the result is this transformative merging of essences, where fear is replaced by calm and love is allowed to flow freely.
It's a beautiful sentiment, and it makes you think about the ways in which we often close ourselves off, out of fear, out of self-preservation. But in doing so, we also block ourselves from experiencing the fullness of life, the richness of human connection.
And that's a message that I think is more relevant than ever in our current world, where we're so often bombarded with negativity and fear. It's a reminder that we have the power to choose openness, to choose love, to choose connection.
I love that. Okay, moving on to a poem that really stood out to me. There is a legend I am told of a black saint, son of Shiva. I mean, talk about a powerful image.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's like he's drawing on all these different cultural and spiritual traditions to create this truly unique figure. We have this black saint who's also the son of Shiva, the Hindu deity of destruction and transformation. And he's described as someone who transcends societal categories, who conquers worlds of stone and cement, who inspires fearlessness in others through his very presence. And despite being aware of the frailty of human tears and wants, he leaves a lasting impact, encouraging others to find love within their own physical being before returning to Shiva.
It's a lot to unpack, but I love the way he blends these different elements together. It feels like an allegory for someone who breaks through boundaries, who challenges conventions, who inspires others to embrace their full potential.
Absolutely. And that idea of embracing our full potential, our physicality, our sensuality, it comes up again in the poem, I Look Into Your Soul.
This one feels so intimate, like you're peering into someone's secret world.
Yeah, it's like he's describing a soul that's hiding, that's afraid to be fully seen. He talks about a soul that's locked in a safe, that wants to be left alone to start its journey home. And then there's that image of tearing up at the sight of a wild goose flying overhead. It's like a glimpse of this deep emotional sensitivity that's hidden beneath the surface.
A beautiful image, and it makes you think about the ways in which we all carry these hidden wounds, these tender places that we try to protect from the world.
Exactly. And sometimes it takes a lot of courage to allow ourselves to be seen, to be vulnerable, to let those walls down. But when we do, it can be incredibly liberating.
For sure. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the poem, You Are Powerful. This one feels like a straight-up affirmation, a call to action almost.
It's definitely a powerful statement. He's addressing someone who's been through a lot, who's fought their way through the war of life. And he's reminding them of their inherent strength, their wisdom, their ability to see beyond the illusions that blind so many others. He talks about how they've learned from both their triumphs and their failures and how they've come to a place of peace, a place where they can see what truly matters.
It's a reminder that our struggles can make us stronger, that our experiences, even the painful ones, can shape us into more resilient, more compassionate, more insightful human beings.
And sometimes we need to hear that message, especially when we're feeling lost or discouraged.
100%. Okay, the next poem, Still Sleeping Naked Dreams of Pyrrhic Victories. This one takes on a more world-weary tone.
It does, doesn't it? It's like he's tired of fighting, tired of these empty victories that come at too high a cost. He talks about wanting to be left alone to start my journey home to lands frequented by ancients in present time. It makes me think about the ways in which we sometimes get caught up in chasing things that don't ultimately fulfill us, things that leave us feeling empty and exhausted.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most important journey is the one inward, the one that leads us back to our true selves.
Absolutely. And speaking of journeys, the poem If We Are Fated to Part, Then We Are Fated to Meet Again explores the unpredictable nature of destiny, the ways in which our lives intertwine and unravel in unexpected ways.
It's like a cosmic dance, isn't it? The way we're constantly coming together and drifting apart.
Exactly. And he talks about how separation can feel like illusion's madness, like a rupture in the natural order of things. But he also acknowledges that these partings, these disruptions, can lead to new beginnings, new possibilities. And ultimately, he celebrates the enduring power of connection, the way that even when we're physically apart, the bonds we forge can remain strong.
It's a message of hope, really.
Yeah.
A reminder that even in the face of loss and uncertainty, there's always the potential for renewal, for reconnection.
And that reminds me of the poem Lock Your Heart in a Safe, which offers a seemingly paradoxical piece of advice.
I was going to say that one feels a little bit contradictory.
Right. At first, he's suggesting that we need to protect our hearts, to shield them from the harsh realities of the world, but then he goes on to say that without a heart, there is no life. So it's not about shutting down completely, it's about finding a balance between self-preservation and vulnerability.
It's about recognizing that our hearts are both fragile and incredibly resilient, and that true connection requires us to be both careful and courageous.
Exactly. And speaking of connection, the poem, We Are All Metaphors of Our Likes and Dislikes, takes a more cynical view of human nature, suggesting that we're often defined by our preferences, our biases, our divisions.
I was going to say, this one feels a little bit pessimistic.
He talks about how our likes and dislikes create these artificial boundaries between us, and how they can prevent us from reaching our full potential. He describes a world that makes no sense, where we're constantly searching for something that's been lost, where we're operating within a system of symbols that's devoid of true meaning.
It's a bleak picture, but I think there's also a challenge embedded in there. A challenge to question our assumptions, to examine our biases, to look beyond the superficial differences that divide us.
I agree. And I think that's a challenge that's more relevant than ever in our current political climate.
Okay, let's end on a more positive note with the poem, When Emotions Empty into Your Artwork. This one feels like a celebration of the creative process, the power of art to transform and heal.
It's a beautiful poem, and it really captures the way that art can be a conduit for our deepest emotions. He talks about how colors, textures, shapes, they can all become expressions of our inner world. And the act of creation itself can be incredibly cathartic, a way of releasing what's been bottled up inside.
It's like art gives us a language to express what words sometimes can't. And in doing so, it allows us to connect with others, to share our experiences, to build bridges of understanding.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the poetry of Manuel de Valle Colón, I think we've encountered some really powerful themes. The search for meaning and connection, the struggle between control and surrender, the transformative power of art and nature, the cyclical nature of life and death, the enduring strength of the human spirit.
And it's all filtered through the lens of his own remarkable life, his experiences as an advocate, an educator, a scholar, a human being who's deeply engaged with the complexities of the world.
Exactly. So as you, the listener, reflect on these poems, think about the ways in which they resonate with your own life, your own experiences, your own search for meaning, and consider that question that he poses in the title poem. Where do words reside? Where do they come from? What power do they hold? And how can we use them to create a more just, more compassionate, more beautiful world?
It's a question worth pondering, and I think that Valle Colón's poetry offers some really valuable insights. So if you're intrigued by what you've heard today, I highly encourage you to check out his collection, Omnibus Poetry XXIII 2025. There's a whole world of beauty and wisdom waiting to be discovered within its pages.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.
Take care, everyone.